Literally twice the weight of Frosthaven. Let's see what's inside. Oathsworn is a cooperative epic adventure game in which you follow the story of a free company recovering from a trek into the Deep Wood, which is a twisted forest that's been tainted by dark magic. How did this come to be? Alright, the story of Oathsworn aims to unlock that through an intricate storytelling system where player decision shapes the narrative as you go through one of the last safe havens of the world, and eventually trekking back into the woods to fight back. You play as a free company of 4 Oathsworn, brave adventurers who trek into the Deepwood in a campaign narrated by James Cosmo.
Green mud sucks at your boots, every stride a challenge as you trudge through the rain. Your hands grip the thick iron cable of the wire road, pulled taut through rings, sunken into the trunks of hideous trees.
The game has a standee version and a miniatures version, and because I do love painting miniatures, I got the full version, including miniature terrain, which is just so wonderful looking. The miniatures version is optional, but that version does include a bonus mystery chest to store the miniatures of the things you'll be fighting, and we'll be looking at those after we look into the main box. Something I want to point out though is although the initial setup of Oathsworn can take quite a bit of effort, it took me working by myself a bit over an hour to sort out all the cards and components into their respective containers, as well as divvy up all the Oathsworn cards. After an initial bit of organization, setup and teardown is actually quick, and that's amazing. As someone who loves Gloomhaven, I've often struggled with setup and teardown times, but Oathsworn doesn't seem to suffer the same problem, despite having a much larger set of components and boxes. The bottom layer of the box holds your encounter cards and character mats, as well as the cards that you will be sorted out into these 4 organizers at the corners. Each additional section includes dividers, and you can rotate through pretty easily. And actually, although you need a little bit of setup to get to those, we found that using the dividers is pretty rudimentary. The tokens that come with it fit in a nice organizer, and you'll be using these in both story and battle mode. So as you get through the encounter and get through the narrative, you'll be gaining some of these and spending some of these. So keep in mind, however, since it's all put in this nice organizer, you don't have to worry about losing which one goes where, and they're all marked with these wonderful labels. The next layer has card trays, which are used for alternative if you don't want to use dice, which although are pretty nice to use for the game, you can actually use dice or cards, and I'll get in that in the gameplay video. But also includes some of your token baggies, as well as the journal. Additionally, a lot of rule books, including journals, campaigns, stories, and whatnot. Although the storybooks are pretty massive and there's a lot going on here, you can skip a lot of what the storybook offers if you just use the app, which narrates and gives you all your bonuses and all the locations, so you don't necessarily need to keep flipping through a book. The app will just tell you what to place. However, if you're a little bit more old school or want to narrate it yourself or go through the campaign without the app, you have the option to here, which is great because it does give you that option of at least what do you want to do? Do you want to use the app or do you want to use the book? You can use either. You're equipped with both. The next layer includes these mystery envelopes, which you will unlock as you play the campaign. The cool part about these, though, and something I really like, is these are fairly significant and clearly give you access to certain parts of the world without spoiling so much of it, but they don't take up so much space, and they're in these nice little organizers, and there's a little bit of leeway to them so they don't just feel completely packed. Then you have the game board. The game board, which is used for encounters, fits nicely atop that. It's not super terribly snug, but that's deliberate. The last layer is the miniatures, which fits nicely on top of the box. The part about this is nice is the components below it aren't necessarily fit super snug. They are, and they have their nice spaces, but they're not packed in entirely. This last layer prevents anything from getting to the top, which is fantastic, because then you can just slide the box on, and I know a lot of people don't believe this, because they're like, as soon as the only time the box lid fits correctly is the first time you play it. It actually just fits amazingly. I've actually packed and repackaged this a few times now, and it just goes back in perfectly, which is something I think is wonderful about it. The miniatures are of higher scale. I read 45 millimeters, but they do feel a little bit larger than that, and that's great. They have nicely sculpted bases, and they're made out of HIPS, high-impact polystyrene. This is the same hard plastic that Game Workshop uses. They feel sturdy, and they're much higher quality than the equivalent board games. Actually, they're closer to competing with equivalent wargaming miniatures, which makes it a lot better because I kind of have, although I enjoy a lot of board games with miniatures, usually I kind of get a little bit underwhelmed by them because the quality's low or they don't have a lot of detail. I usually praised Kingdom Death for having incredibly good miniatures, but Oathsworn stands as a competitor to that, featuring amazing looking miniatures that are incredibly sturdy and high quality. Not only that, but they seem interesting and are full of character instead of the standard copy-paste knights you see in some games. The mats are more than just information. They give you places to store your might, which is used for both story and narrative mode, but also helps track your abilities and their battle flow, which I'll talk about in my first impressions video. The mats and cards are easy to read, and there's a lot of care that's gone into creating information and sturdy space for you to store your abilities and track what's going on. And there's a lot going on here. There's plenty of rule books, and the only general problem is there's like the storybook, the encounter book, and then there's rule books for both of them. And sometimes it's a little bit annoying to figure out what's where, but just stepping through, it's at least easy to figure out which book should have what component you're looking for, if you're looking for a specific rule versus a specific encounter. Additionally, between the miniatures and token trays, characters and the boards and boxes takes up actually a lot of space to play. That doesn't hurt gameplay though, but it can be problematic if you are working in a smaller table or space. The books, however, are laid out in a helpful manner and they're concise enough that we are able to find the rules that we had forgotten quite quickly, and even then it was actually fairly intuitive to play. The app gives you a tutorial if you want to watch those, and that was awfully convenient. This is something we did before our first play session. I normally struggle a little bit learning the rules of a new game, and there was a bit of reading, but this book has plenty of visuals and examples and tells it a way that I was able to pick it up quite quickly alongside one friend as we played our first session. The storybook we've used less, and we relied heavily on the app, but that was incredibly easy to follow. If you do have the miniatures version, the mystery chest serves as a storage container as well as a spoiler shield for your miniatures and encounters and other things that you'll be using over the course of the campaign. The cool part is they are labeled, so we have like 1, 2, and then you can see, so chapters 1 and 2 you'll be using these, and as well as some of them we'll be holding off till later. Ooh, 21 here. But some of them are just marked with icons. The app and the rulebook will tell you which boxes to open and when, and how to set them up, so don't worry. You'll get some guidance. I don't want to get into spoilers, so I'm not going to reveal the contents of this, but it's really nice how at least you have a nice storage space for all the bosses, encounters, various terrains, and everything you'll need to run a campaign. I also got the terrain box because I didn't want to use tiles for terrain. I love the effect of 3D terrain, and I'm glad they included this. The components feel so great and really add to setting the scene. Honestly, a lot of this can double for Warhammer terrain too. I'll go over my first impressions of play shortly in a different video, but I was wildly impressed with the quality of the components, the insight that went into building the box and the organizers, and all of that impacts session playtime. And I think that's huge because building the box of organizers, I appreciate what the designers went through because they clearly put time and effort into making it easier and a better experience. Because it doesn't feel like a chore every time you're playing. And I know that there's other games in particular where just the idea of like, let's get this out and set it up for play sometimes feels like its own chore. So a big thanks to Shadowborn Games for this, and I'm eagerly awaiting this so I can play through the whole campaign and dive into the world of the Deepwood. So what parts of Oathsworn are you most excited about? Do you want to see more? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to follow for more content. I'll be doing a lot of Oathsworn and Frosthaven in the upcoming months, so get really excited for that. I want to give a big thanks to our Inox tier patrons. All of you are wonderful. Thank you for supporting the channel. I love the feedback. I'm going to be doing a couple more videos that you suggested, as well as continuing if people are more interested in Oathsworn. I'll absolutely do a little bit more of that. I know a few of you reached out asking more questions there, so I will at least be doing one more video and maybe more if you want that. So big thanks to all of our patrons and a big thanks to all of you for watching.
Green mud sucks at your boots, every stride a challenge as you trudge through the rain. Your hands grip the thick iron cable of the wire road, pulled taut through rings, sunken into the trunks of hideous trees. For days now, it has been the only evidence of humanity's existence in the Deepwood. Clinging to this lifeline has not worked for everyone, though. You are one less than when you left Verum. It was nothing any of you saw, just a thrum on the wire behind you, and then a scream disappearing into the dark. The memory is fresh in your mind, but this is not the time to mourn, not here. As you travel, vines and black tree trunks, spattered with sickly pink cysts, block your view ahead. Things slither away and rustle through the undergrowth, but they are of little concern. One cannot afford to jump at every noise in this place, or else you'd go mad. It is only when the sounds slither towards you that you need to worry.